The current heat wave in Europe is very serious. In France, more than 1,000 people have already died due to the heat wave. Even the Green Party, a left-wing party that used to say we shouldn't use air conditioners at all, is now insisting that we need to use air conditioners. Let's take a closer look at this issue today. Let's get right to it. A record-breaking heat wave is currently continuing across Europe. Let's start by looking at the case of France. The French Public Health Agency announced that as of June 28, the number of deaths has been on the rise nationwide since June 23, which was recorded as the hottest day. The daily average number of deaths, which used to be around 900 to 1,000, has now increased to 1,200 or even 1,400. The French Public Health Agency said this is linked to the heat wave. That's understandable, since the increase in deaths was particularly noticeable in areas where a red heat wave alert had been issued. Above all, the number of deaths at home in the Paris metropolitan area increased by about 40% compared to usual. Health authorities believe that the damage was concentrated among elderly people living alone. This heat wave is recording even higher temperatures than in 2003, when about 15,000 people died from heat-related causes. Of course, now that cold air is coming into France, the heat has eased a bit, but it seems that this heat dome is moving from France toward Eastern Europe. You might wonder how extreme a heat wave must be for so many to die. Right now, Europe is like an oven. In Germany, for example, the temperature reached 40 degrees on the 27th, causing the concrete pavement on highways to break and roads to be closed. In the Czech Republic, temperatures hit 40.8 degrees, the hottest day ever recorded. In Basel, Switzerland, the temperature also rose to 38.8 degrees, breaking the all-time record. In France on June 25th, the temperature reached 40.9 degrees, setting the highest June temperature ever recorded. No joke. Right now in Europe, if you put a frying pan outside and crack an egg on it, it gets so hot that you could actually make a fried egg. On top of that, even the northern European countries, which usually aren't associated with hot summers, have been experiencing unusually high temperatures. The Danish Meteorological Institute reported that the temperature in Odum, north of Aarhus, reached 37 degrees, which is the highest temperature recorded since weather observations began in 1874. With such high temperatures, the number of heat-related deaths is rapidly increasing. Of course, you might wonder, isn't it okay as long as you stay indoors? But in reality, that's not the case. The air conditioner penetration rate in Europe is much lower than you might think. In France, the household air conditioner penetration rate is about 25%. In Spain, it's about 40%, and in Italy, it's about 50%. If you look at the European average, it's only around 20%, so you can say that a significant number of households don't have air conditioning. In Korea, 98% of people have air conditioners, compared to 88% in the US. So despite similar heat waves, indoor cooling options differ greatly. The penetration rate is low because air conditioners haven't been seen as essential household items in Europe until now. Most regions have an oceanic climate, keeping the weather cool even in summer, with temperatures often dropping at night. That's why many households spent the summer just opening windows or using fans for ventilation. Recently, with repeated heat waves over 40 degrees, people can no longer cope the way they used to. The issue is that installing an air conditioner isn't easy, even if you want to. Europe has many centuries-old buildings, making it difficult to install new pipes or outdoor units. Many buildings are designated historical and cultural assets, so strict regulations prohibit damaging their exteriors. Some areas strictly restrict installing outdoor units on building exteriors to maintain the city's appearance. Also, in buildings with outdated electrical systems, limited power capacity often prevents running multiple air conditioners, so many people end up giving up on installing them altogether. Due to these overlapping factors, even during record heat waves, many people must endure the heat without cooling facilities. Even in hospitals, schools, and public facilities, few air conditioners are installed, forcing thousands of schools to close. This has led to a surge in air conditioner purchases across Europe. As the damage from the heat wave becomes increasingly severe, political debates over expanding air conditioning are also intensifying. Currently, Marine Le Pen of the National Rally in France insists on large-scale government subsidies to expand air conditioning. This heat wave is also affecting European politics. Even the left-leaning Green Party, which had been most opposed to wider air conditioning adoption for environmental reasons, is now partially shifting its stance. The Green Party has long been cautious about widespread air conditioner installation, saying it raises power use, greenhouse gas emissions, and the urban heat island effect. Therefore, they have argued that improving building insulation and utilizing natural ventilation are more desirable approaches. But as the record-breaking heat wave has caused a surge in heat-related illnesses in schools and hospitals, and as classroom and hospital room temperatures have reached dangerous levels, attitudes have begun to shift. There's increasing demand for air conditioning in facilities housing vulnerable groups like young children, the elderly, and patients. The Green Party leadership believes air conditioning should be installed in key public facilities like schools and hospitals, recognizing that during extreme heat waves, cooling is necessary to protect lives. As climate change is progressing faster than expected, European society is facing the reality that it is difficult to respond with existing principles alone. The policy, while still focused on environmental protection and carbon reduction, is increasingly considering expanding cooling facilities to safeguard citizens' lives and safety. Currently, the damage from the heat wave in Europe continues to increase. In Spain, more than 300 people have died from the heat wave over the past 5 days, and in Paris, France, 109 people died from the heat wave in a single day on June 26. Also, the winter snow layer covering the Swiss Alps glaciers is melting rapidly. As of June 29, it is reported that all the glaciers formed in the Swiss Alps have melted. This is the second fastest rate in the 21st century. It is said that 2.5 million liters melted every 6 seconds. Additionally, rising workplace temperatures across Europe are exceeding safety standards, causing more factories to change hours or temporarily stop production. In fact, at a car factory in France, the temperature inside the workplace rose so high that it became unbearable, and there were even reports that union leaders called for a strike. Especially in industries like steel mills or chemical plants, where high heat is already generated, the heat wave is making working conditions even worse. As the risk of heat-related illnesses for workers increases, some companies are even considering reducing daytime work and expanding night shifts. Both manufacturing and digital industries are being affected. A data center must constantly cool heat from tens of thousands of servers, and as outside temperatures rise, cooling systems run longer and power use rises sharply. If cooling isn't adequate, server performance may decline or equipment lifespan may shorten, leading to higher operating costs. Additionally, rising electricity rates are further increasing companies' burdens. Experts say that if heat waves continue to occur, companies will have to spend even more on cooling infrastructure and energy management. If production costs rise, it can also affect product prices, and this could put a strain on the competitiveness of European manufacturing. Climate change is beginning to change not only people's daily lives, but also industry and the way businesses are run. Also, across Europe, excessive electricity use has led to power shortages. In Belgium, on June 26, when the heat wave peaked, 2 Eurostar trains which connect major cities in Western Europe stopped midway due to power supply issues. Several Eurostar trains connecting London and Paris were also cancelled due to power shortages. The heat wave also caused issues with the railway tracks. Track switches and signal systems were sometimes damaged by prolonged exposure to high temperatures and direct sunlight, causing additional problems. As the heat wave worsens, air conditioning use and electricity demand are both surging. But ironically, power plants are now in a situation where it's difficult to produce more electricity. Most power plants cool with river or lake water, but heat waves raise water temperature and reduce cooling efficiency. If the power facilities keep running, it can put a lot of strain on the equipment, and releasing the heated cooling water back into the river can have a big impact on the ecosystem, so they have no choice but to reduce power generation. In fact, in France, the state-owned power company EDF reduced the output of some nuclear power plants, and about 70,000 households in the Brittany region experienced power outages. In the UK as well, several major gas-fired power plants reduced their output due to cooling issues, putting more strain on the power supply. This is a situation where the supply actually decreased at a time when more electricity was needed. This impact was immediately reflected in electricity bills. In the UK, the heat wave was accompanied by weaker winds, which led to a significant decrease in wind power generation, and the country had to import electricity from continental Europe at high prices to make up the shortfall. The electricity purchase price once rose to nearly 15 times its normal level. In Germany, wholesale electricity prices, stable during the day, surged several-fold after sunset. Solar power generation fell sharply while air conditioning demand stayed high. This has led to increasing calls in Europe that electricity storage technology is as important as generation. They suggest storing daytime solar power in large batteries for nighttime use and expanding energy storage systems. There's also discussion about growing offshore wind power as an alternative. Offshore wind power is considered to be able to compensate for the limitations of solar power, as it can produce electricity relatively stably even at night and during the winter. In the wake of this heat wave, there is a rapidly growing discussion in Europe that in order to respond to climate change, it is necessary not only to increase power generation facilities, but also to change energy storage technology and the structure of the power grid.